A few problems that I think you're facing. Some of you, this is kind of borrowed off of SIPO's concept, and it's basically just to have a look at what happens when you have something like this, a feature where it's at an angle. How do you dimension it? Okay, so we're going to go through quickly. What is it called again? An auxiliary view and true dimensions, and the difficulty of doing this, especially because of things like radii. So I'm going to hop into making a drawing from the part. I'm going to select an A0. All right, and so one of the things that I've just figured is that before I do anything here, I want to make sure that I have the right, what is it called again? I'll get to it in a moment. We have the right type of projection. So on my system, it's set to third angle. I've got to change it to set to first angle. So I check that this is first angle first, and then go over to the view palette and drag in my front view. Okay, and then from here you must pull in other views. You must pull in your right view and your top view, and this will become apparent in a second. SIPO, I hope you don't mind, but you're not the only one. The temptation is here, especially if you don't have this right view available, is to try and dimension this shape in this view, especially if you've set your datum. So let's say you've put in a datum here. Okay, so that's a legitimate datum. We would have put in center lines. I'm not going to worry for now. So that'll be your datum. That's because this is a nice flat face. You can see the way I've designed this. It's actually got a split line here. It meets at a sharp point because it's going to demold in that direction down and that direction up, and then this piece here I'd either have to put tapers in to get it out, or it would be a separate part in the mold which comes out on the sides. But if I didn't have this view here, I wouldn't know that this part here is angled. You can see it's angled. So it's essential to put the views in just to remind you of what you did, and then also to make sure, well, whoever's looking at it can then see what's happened. So the question here is, how does one dimension what's happening on that face? I've got to come in at a right angle to this thing. Remember, true views and auxiliary views. I don't know if that's registering with you, but it's something I've been on about for quite a while. Everything that you do, if you want to dimension, you must be true to the view, which just means 90 degrees to the view. So I think there's two things that are happening here. One is how to select this view, and the other one is what SolidWorks makes difficult for you. I'm just going to quickly do this. As a default, it brings in the tangent lines as solid lines, same as if they were ordinary lines. And that provides the temptation for you to say, aha, here is a feature, or here is a place where I can dimension a thing, forgetting that these are not real lines. They don't exist. This is not a real feature. Okay, and I'll show you why. This is something I've shown twice now, but I'll show you again because it's a neat way of checking to see what you're doing. So if I just select this view just to see what the view is drawing view 1. I now want to see what this feature actually looks like in my feature tree and only dimension that feature in, say, in this view. So go to drawing view 1, open it up, get to the feature that you're dimensioning, which in this case is this first one, boss extrude. Get to the sketch and right click and say show the sketch. Okay, and just to show you what we're doing, I'm going to right click on boss feature and I'm going to hide the feature. So this is what I'm dimensioning. And in fact, this is the way you could go around dimensioning what you need to. You could say, okay, well, there's a datum, so I can actually put that as a datum. I would have to go back later on and just put in a line here because it won't exist. I think it's going to select it. Okay, that hasn't selected the line. So you have to go and put that line in afterwards. But I think, as far as I know, you can actually dimension position. Right, and there's position. So I'm not going to do all of these because that's going to take too long. Just these three for the time being. So those are those three positions. And now I want that's the Y position. I want the X position. So let's go from here to here. And that's all I need for now. Okay, so I would obviously now want to dimension all of it, but for the sake of time, I'm going to leave it just like that. You could, let's just see if that gives us a radius. It's going to be useful later on. 200, yes, it does. And there's this one, and I'd have to dimension the positions of these as well, which I'm not going to do. Okay, so if you've done that, you can go back to your sketch. You can hide the sketch, and you can go back to the feature. And show it. Okay, and now you've got, okay, I haven't hidden the sketch yet, but you've got the sketch showing, and you could use that sketch to just put in your virtual shop. So you could select those two lines, go to sketch and put in that one there. Doesn't seem to want to do it, but at least it gives you a position. You can see where you need your virtual shops, because watch, if I hide the sketch, you can see that the dimensions are pointing to fresh air at the moment, so they need those virtual shops. So click the two lines, click the point. There's a virtual shop. Now that line is pointing to something. Okay, and the same is going to happen here. I need to click on that line and that line, put in the virtual shop. Now that's pointing to an actual point, and the same would happen here and wherever else you decided to do it. So that would be one trick I would suggest to getting these complex shapes where you've got fillets all around and the fillets are causing problems. This would be a way to solve that problem. The other way to do this is hi.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Mine is those, if I try to put those bits, is it the vertical shafts or those edges? It puts star, it is a star. How do you convert a star to these crosses?
Okay, then the settings you got it wrong. So not wrong, but you're not following. So you probably haven't loaded my settings, or you just need to change them. So just go to your options, document properties. You can see mine's loaded. But what I like to do is if something like that's not working, sometimes what's happened is your drawing might be referring to an earlier version of that drafting standard. So I just go and reload that standard. So which one is that? That's fill. So I reload it so that'll load the latest one. And then go to your virtual shops here. There they are there. And you can see which one's selected. So you've got plus, star, witness, dot, and none. So you've got star selected. You just need to have witness selected.
Oh.
Okay, so watch out. I'll put star in and you'll see what happens. So now let's put a star in.
Yeah.
Sometimes star might be easier, although like here, that's not helping me to see that it's that line and that line. So I want you to use, let me just make it more firmer than that. I want you to use this sharp because it gives you the clearest picture. All right. So does that help you guys? Does it give you an idea of what you're doing?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Because I was drawing them physical, I would put a star, then draw a line and fall.
No. Okay. Then the other thing I would do is.
Thank you.
All right, great, no problem. Is anyone else here, by the way? Let's just see who else is joined. Gabriel, Hamza, SM, Kyra, Jake. Jake's here. Hi, Jake. How are you?
I'm okay, and you, Phil?
I'm well, thanks. I need to set up. No, it's fine. I need to set up a meeting with a few of you. So Jake's one of the people I must set a meet. So I hope you're available. And Kutso's here as well. Hi, Kutso.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm alright, thanks. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Right. So the other thing I would do, I'm going to maybe send out a settings file again once, and then next week we'll maybe deal with the settings thing in detail. So the other thing I would do is select on a view, and for now, just go to, so let's just hide this. I would select the view, right click, and go to this command tangent edge, and go to either tangent edges with font, and then you can decide which font you want to use. That's just the kind of line. That'll give you a line. I think I've selected this as a to make it do this. That'll make sure that you understand that whatever you're seeing with a dashed line is a tangent line. You can't dimension to it. So just like that's off limits. So only if it's a solid line. That should help you to decide what to use and what not to use. Okay, so that is, and that also makes maybe the drawing easier to view as well. The other thing you could do is you could do that same thing with tangent edge. You could say tangent edge is removed. Then you don't, there's a whole lot of detail that's missing. So that's not really that useful. This with font one makes a lot of sense. Let me quickly explain that. So you go into your system options. I think it's is it line thickness, line style. Okay, I'm not going to find it now. I'm pretty sure it's actually, no, it must be in document properties. Line font, there it is, line font. So go to line font under document properties, select tangent edges, I think it is, if I can find it. Tangent edges, there it is. And this, just make sure that you selected phantom or dashed. I've used phantom and then decided on the line thickness. And before you say OK, go back up to your drafting standard and go and save to external file so that it saves that setting, and make sure you select the same one again. If you don't do that, it won't save that setting and it'll only apply to this file. Okay. Right, so here's the little tricky bit, is how do I get to see what that view is there? So I need an auxiliary view. Was there a question there? No. Sometimes I hear ghost voices, and I think someone's asking a question. So go to View Layout, and you go to Auxiliary View. It's the fourth one from the left, and you select that edge. Will it do it? Okay, so you have to select the view first, and so I can select either so that on this side here is this edge's view, and this side here is this edge's view. I could have selected a different one. Okay, so that's going to be useful, but I really want this to be, I want it to be horizontal to myself so I can see what's going on. So what I'm first going to do is going to break this alignment. I can pull it out somewhere else. And then the second thing, with the view selected, I'm going to go to this rotate view. I'm going to rotate it. I think it's 10 degrees. If it isn't, just find out what it is. It's -10. I know it's 10 degrees because that angle there is 10 degrees. So, I mean, one quick way to check that is just to quickly dimension this. Just go to that line. Come on. Right. Quick one. Okay, so you should be able to measure between that and that. So it doesn't give it to you. Right, so what it's actually selecting is some sort of tangential view. But this is 10 degrees. You can see these lines are straight. So now I can use, there's my datum. I can use that. So this is still hidden though, because I've got no way of knowing what the starting shape is that I've selected. So I'm going to use the same trick as before. Find out what the view is. It's drawing view 4. Let's close this other view. Drawing view 4, I'm going to open it up. By the way, just so that you guys maybe understand how SolidWorks is working, what you're seeing here is actually the full model that you've created in the part environment. All of these features here are available for if you can do it, no, but you can actually put in a dimension, I think. Try this quickly. As far as I know, this is fully parametric. I'll double click this. No, it isn't. But as far as I know, if you were to dimension something else, let's just try something else here. Okay, so if I change that, no, it's not doing it. All right, I think it might be because of the view, but as far as I know, like if I were to change one of these dimensions, it's not doing it. There are some dimensions you can use from the drawing, which will actually change the model. So there was a long way around. I've forgotten how that works. But back to this problem. So go back to this thing that's drawing view 4. That feature here, it helps to actually have named what the different features are. So I don't think it's the first one. I think it's the second one. And I'll know that if I just, there we go, if I select in the sketch, because the first one is some other sketch. Okay, so here it helps to actually have named this just to see what it is, because when you want to go in here, you can show that, hide the feature, and now I can dimension this one. So unfortunately I needed my, so I'm going to unhide this quickly, show, and then here I'm going to hide the tangent edges. Okay, so now I can start from here and I can put in a position. Okay, put in that little flat. All right, so I actually haven't chosen the best view because I need to know what the offset of this line is from the base. So I've actually chosen the wrong view. It should be this one here. But this gives you an idea at least of how you can go about doing this. And then what you could do is from here, you can actually, once you've got this fully dimensioned, and you're going to have a problem here because this is going to be a spline. You can see it's a spline number, so that's why it would be useful to have this one here. You could say radius 200, radius 285. I could just borrow those two dimensions and minus the offset that I created for this. So I'd have to go back to my sketch and just see what it said. But that's what I would do. Then I would give this a note and dimension these pieces. So that's how you would dimension this inside shape. If you really wanted to, then back to the view. Okay, I'm going to now go back and put my tangent edges in so I can see what's going on. So you can see these dimensions actually pointing to the feature where it doesn't exist. So that's why this view is really not a good one. Actually, so I've lost my train of thought. What I would then do is I would actually go back. Sorry, I should have done this to show it. What you could then do is you could actually then label this view, and you can see it's showing you that the view has been rotated by 10 degrees. You could put in a note and you could say cut shape. Okay, and then for that to be valid, you would have to have some way of here I've located this edge and I've located everything else. You'd have to have some way of locating this bottom piece, and that you'd have to do in another view because that bottom piece has to be located relative to this line here. But in this view, that's wrong. It's not 29.9. All right. Any questions about that? No? Any comments? Does it help? Is it meaningful?
Yeah, it does.
does help. Okay, sorry, I'll just do a quick video to add on to this, a quick segment just to show you, if you were to choose the right view, how that dimension there particularly would be useful, and I'll refer back to the model. All right, so that's done. I'm not going to deal with that much longer. Let's just save this. Okay, so that's that one done. So this is that filler bit that I promised I would make, just to show you how to get the correct view on that line there. Before I do that, I want to show you a little trick. Let's go across to the model. So here's the face, and if you have a look at the sketch, right, so you'll see I offset the whole lot from this face. What I could do is I could select the whole face and then say convert entities. I'm going to leave it as a solid line. It's going to give me an error where you can see it's cut away that line. So just go back into this and say edit feature, and then select under selected contours, select this inside contour. Okay, so what I've done is I've created that line as a reference point for me to do the dimensioning from. I might just have to go and quickly add in. That's because I'm missing a face now, so it will be that face. Right, so that's restored it to where it was before. Go across to the drawing. So I'm going to put in an auxiliary view, select this line. It doesn't seem to show that it's selected, but it has. So it's got E there. I don't want E anymore. It's going out of date. Let's give that an A. Okay, so what happens here is once you cross the center line, the center line of this drawing, it'll swap views. So that's the opposite view, and this is the view that I want. So have a look at the direction. If you have a look at the direction, it swaps. So A is pointing from the right to the left, and if I go like that, it's pointing from the left to the right. So I want from the right to the left. Drop it in. That's fine, and then I can just drag it out. We'll do the usual alignment, break alignment, because I want to pull it out somewhere else, and then I just want that to be rotated by -10, I think. Yes, -10 it is. So before I do anything with this, I'm going to dimension just that inner view. So let's go to this drawing view and select the indentation. I renamed these sketches so it's easy to find. So let's show that. And let's see if we hide this. Okay, there we go. So in fact, now we have a datum and the inside shape. So what we could do, technically, since we've got the dimensions, we'll have the dimensions for the outside thing. We could put in a note. I can't see what would be wrong with this. Command and note. And we could say ref. What would this be? Primary extrusion profile. We can rename that afterwards. I see, spelling mistake. Okay, and then we can just give another note, save all, something like this. And let's say, I think after the fact, offset. Make that into caps. So that would be the quick way of doing it. If you've actually done something legitimate, in other words, if you've got a legitimate set of dimensions for this outside one to refer to, then this would be quite okay. And let's just go back. So I think here we might have to, we'll have to show this feature. This would almost be good enough. yeah, I think what I would do here, just to make things clear, is a quick further addendum. So just to make this really clear, I've got primary extrusion profile. That would be, you could use here the boss extrude if you rename that, but a better way to do this would just to make sure that you refer to this front view. So I'll just say ref, zoom in on that, front view, extrusion profile, extrusion profile in front view. There you go, because that's now you've actually dimensioned what that is in the front view, and you can just, all right, so then I think there was another, yeah, let's create a quick part. One or two of you did this, so I'm just going to go to front view, put a sketch in. I would have done this previously. I would actually have sketched some dimension, otherwise it's not real. Right, so that's what you've got. Line these two up. There we go. Okay, so exit the sketch. Okay, and I want a revolve. Currently open. Right, and then it's a 5 mil and give it to us, all of them. Great stuff. So something like that. And now I'm going to make a drawing from this. Drawing from parts. Insert. Save it here somewhere. UJ projects. Let's call this test. Okay. So here I want to do something like that. Doesn't really matter. Right, so you bring this in. You decide you need a center line, so you go and you put center line in. There we go, and stretch it out. And use that as a section view. We want that direction on there. So yes, that's okay. All right. So this won't. I'm going to go back to my model. Sorry about this. And we want to shell it with the 1 mil shell. Okay, so there's the 1 mil shell. Go to this view. We don't want, we want to slice the section, and we want to enlarge it, because that's what we do with sections, we enlarge them. And if you put in a center line as well, sorry, I should have done this beforehand, this is wasting time. Okay, so legitimate. Now you're going to dimension around here. The temptation here is to see that radius and that radius as separate radii, because you've got 2 radii. You've actually just got 1 radius. All of these radii on one side are just single radii. The other thing, let's just get this to break alignment. Okay, so the other thing about this, I'll show you the radii thing now. The other thing about this is just to quickly talk about dimensioning across center line. So this is your center line. There are 2 things about center lines, well, maybe more, but there's certainly 2 things that are most problematic. One is we use the term center line in many ways. So I can actually create a, see what it's called. They call it a center line. It's called a center line. I can create a construction line like this, and it's called a center line. And this line here is also a center line. And I can put in a center line between here and here, which is going to be useful, what I need. So these are all center lines, but they're center lines of different types. So that could be a center line which is just pointing to a feature, which I could use as an aid to dimensioning of some sort. It's not centering on anything. It's just a construction line. We use it to mean a construction line. We use it to mean a center of a feature, and we use it to mean a center of a whole object. So there are three different uses of it. If you are going to dimension across a center line, as in the center of the whole object, let's put that in just to make it clear. What are we doing? Note. Yes, that's right. And then put them in. Okay, so you've got your center line, which you wouldn't have done the way I've done it. What that's indicating is that when you dimension always across the center line. Okay, so always like this. You never ever dimension to the center line. This one here gets a big red mark. This is not okay. I did show you in an earlier version that you could break this line. You could break this view to only show half the view, but you would still dimension across the center line. You would then just have to remove the second arrow and the second thing, which I'll refresh you on that as well. So that's one thing. Then
what I did with my resubmission now.
Yeah.
All I did, basically, I think I misunderstood your markings or the marks that you get, or what do you call it, that key?
Yeah.
And I just redid all the dimensions and what do you call it? I dimensioned from the center line.
Okay, can't. Okay, all right. Well, resubmit. No, well, resubmit if you want by 12 noon tomorrow. Anyone can resubmit by 12 noon. I've given a few people resubmission time, so I'm going to give it to everyone. You can also resubmit based on today's lesson. Go watch last 2 weeks ago's lessons. Those are going to be very helpful as well. All right. So, so that's the one thing. Then the other thing is, if you dimension this one here. Oh, someone's alarm's going off. That there, you would not put in another dimension here. That's not okay, because this thing is a round thing. That shape goes all the way around. All of these do the same thing. And you wouldn't put all around because it's obvious it goes all the way around. All right. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that you need to look out for. I think we're about at the end of our thing. So